Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our raw reaction review for Bambi, The Reckoning. After a mother and son get in a car wreck, they soon become hunted by Bambi, a mutated, grief-stricken deer, on a deadly rampage seeking revenge for the death of his mother. Luke, we are back, baby. It has been a few months. The last time we took a trip to the Twisted Childhood universe, it was back in January with Neverland Nightmares, and boy, we left on a high mark. You know what I mean? Like, we were on a high there. Not only was that a very special film for us just personally because we got to, critique it long before the final edit was done, which was a huge honor, but the fact that, we were able to sit back, watch this movie, and say this is actually very competent, and then to have the fans actually agree with us was very, very. It affirmed all of my hopes and dreams for what this whole universe could be. But we both knew in the back of our heads, we knew the next one, this was going to be a tough sell, and we've been honest about it. In our trailer breakdown, we talked about how Bambi: The Reckoning, this was the one for both of us, that even though I'm a fan of creature features, the fact that we were going full CGI deer and we were doing a couple of things in the trailer just in general kind of seemed like I don't necessarily know what kind of a story they're trying to tell here. We had some reservations, but the film is here. We've gotten to see it. Luke, how are you feeling? Bambi: The Reckoning.
We went into this extremely hesitant, and honestly, our goal was just to have some fun with it, and hopefully, the CGI wasn't too bad to really take us out of the film, and we wanted, hopefully, some sort of unique take for the film itself. And I'll say I think you can find some fun in Bambi: The Reckoning for certain. They go some routes with it. They certainly give you enough of the deer where sometimes that can be an issue with creature features, but Bambi has an abundant amount of screen time throughout the film, so they make sure to deliver on that aspect. Now, was it overly fun for me? I don't think so. I think just the take is maybe a little bit safe, maybe a little generic to a lot of storytelling that we've seen, but it's not a terrible film, maybe ill-placed, just because in terms of the storytelling with Neverland Nightmares, Blood and Honey 2, those have such fun takes, and they're very unique and really show the potential of this franchise and what they can do with these characters, where Bambi just seems like it is that safe take. It's the take we are thinking we're going to get, and it just may be ill-placed after that we're riding that high of those two.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I think I had a harder time connecting with this movie as a whole, and I expected that. That being said, though, I do think I'm a little bit more positive than I expected myself to be, because I think that if I'm going to just dive right into positives off the bat and before I get into my real criticisms of all this, I think that for what we get, Bambi being CGI, it's not nearly as jarring as I thought it was going to be throughout the film. There's quite a lot of shots of Bambi in this film that are actually pretty well done. They're really well integrated. It looks not necessarily like it's real by any stretch of the imagination, but it's convincing enough. It feels like it has a physical presence. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to CGI, especially on a smaller budget, is I'd rather it look slightly cartoony, but have, at least some weight to it, rather than just watch this, polygons and pixels float across the screen chasing people, and I think they absolutely nailed that. It's you can tell there was a lot of work put into that. I'm sure it was a completely different kind of battle than anything that the other two films had to go through, and I think for that I got to give them their props there. They did well with that, and I think that there are some creative kills, there are some fun deaths, and I think overall it's not nearly as tough of a watch as I thought it was going to be, because I really thought from the trailer we were going to end up in one particular location, but the fact that we kind of went in a few different spots, I think helped keep the movie moving along.
Yes, and when you look at the kills here, I'll say I think there are some that are handled rather well, and there's one in particular. It's a great kill. Unfortunately, I'm assuming budgetary reasons, we kind of cut away from certain things or don't show certain things until maybe more so the aftermath, which we had talked before recording this, where it was like, okay, there could have been a great money shot there. I understand budgets are what they are and probably could not pull that off. But when you go into Bambi, being this killer deer and just wanting that gore aspect of it, those are kind of the things I feel like you have to deliver on. But yeah, there are some good kills here. Now, I did want to bring up, because I did watch this twice, and the second time I just really wanted to pay attention to the kills. And I'll say, body count wise, we do get into the double digits with Bambi the Reckoning, but at the hands of Bambi, those kills are less than half of the entire body count, which I think is a little bit of a problem when we're going in for the gore and the kills here, where we just didn't get enough. Yes, there is a body count, but they're not all done by Bambi, which I pose that as a little bit of a problem, just because, hey, I wanted to see this killer deer massacre people.
Yeah, and it does leave you in a bit of an odd place at the end of this movie. I will say, when I'm going into my criticisms here, I don't necessarily know why the story unfolds the way it does, because we just had a conversation beforehand, and I thought that this was a completely different movie based on my one viewing that I had, just because there are a couple of elements towards the beginning that wrap around to the end of this movie that can get a little muddled. And I think we need to be completely honest here when we say that, well, obviously we should be completely honest here. The screener that we have, I don't know yet. I have to reconfirm before we do this interview with the director, but I think that this is unfinished. I think that we're missing some sound, and we're missing something rather integral to the series at the beginning of this movie that feels very poor, if this is what they're actually doing. If this is, I don't know why. If, like you mentioned, maybe it was a stylistic choice, I don't know why you would drift so far from what we've done, because fans of this series know what to expect from that opening. And at this point, I like it. It works for the universe. It's a nice little, especially in this first phase, like just setting the stage, and the way they're handling it here, it's very strange. I wasn't keen on it. And again, it did create a little bit of confusion.
Yes, and see, I don't know if it's a stylistic choice. I hope it's not. Just when you put it up against the other films that have done things so well, this one would, be at the back of the line in terms of how well that was achieved, because it does get a little convoluted as you're watching it. Now, I was only able to distinguish something that we had talked about story-wise on my second viewing, because I had thought exactly what you did, and I know we're just dancing around things, but it was just, a pretty big piece of the puzzle to the story. So hopefully that is just a placeholder by the time this thing's actually released. We'll get confirmation on that here. Just by this time this is out, we'll put in the notes or something that we know if this was the finished or non-finished version. But that is an interesting way to open up the film in terms of what we've seen prior. So I hope that's not the finished version. It does create a little bit of confusion, but overall, I think where we go with this actual story, like I said, it's a little bit safer than I would have hoped, just because I wanted that kind of wild story. We're taking public domain horror. We just, take the ball and run with it. And it's not a bad story. It's just kind of more safe than what I was expecting. And I think character-wise, I didn't really resonate with anyone. It is kind of this family story, but I never fully invested in any of the characters. I understand what they're going for, but it just wasn't all that intriguing for me. So even from the mutant deer to the connective tissue with the family, it's not bad. Again, it's not a bad story. It's just a very safe take.
I have to follow up too with the family on that, because looking back on this, and I am 2 weeks removed from seeing this, and you just finished it up like within the last couple days. So it's one of those things for me where it's like, I can tell you already that a lot of the human characters in this, and I'm not even going to sit here and say like all the human characters in all these movies have been amazing. Like, no, the first one, certainly not. Really, I think that it comes down to our leads when it really runs down to these films. And I thought Wendy was excellent. I loved her and her brother's chemistry. I think that's, again, why that movie's such a highlight. And of course, I thought that Christopher Robin was actually really well done, and actually had some emotional moments in Blood and Honey too, for what it is, And I don't know who any of these people are. I don't remember anybody's name. I don't know. There's a kid, there's a mom, there's some uncles. That's about it. And they have this awkward relationship with this family dynamic, which I won't spoil, where a certain character is referenced towards the beginning, never shows up until the very end of the movie, and then basically is just whiny and inconsequential until the final moments of the film. And I don't know, it felt like, again, this really felt like, I think the pacing was the problem here for me at the end of it, if I'm really sitting here analyzing it deeply. Because again, we start off, and like the last one with Neverland Nightmares, I feel like, yeah, we started off with a bang, but we still built things up, we still had time. And these aren't like long movies, I'm not saying they have to be. Hour and a half is perfect, but I just felt like we went from, hey, how's it going, to, oh my god, here's Bambi, and then just set piece, moving on, set piece, moving on, a couple of deaths here and there, and then we're wrapping it up. And it felt like the movie was just like so wishy-washy with, we're going to go at a breakneck speed and then we're going to slow down. And I had a really hard time with that.
I was going to bring up the pacing of the film as well, where, you know, I think our screener was an hour 20, but the screener actually ends early. So it ends around like an hour 15 in terms of story. And then you get the credits. And when you look at the story that we get, and when we're sitting in some scenes that feel very, very long to me, and we're not really necessarily covering a lot of ground with a lot of connective tissue with the characters, it just kind of seems like a bit of a back and forth to slow down the film from being just a 60-minute film, because I think you could have easily cut this down because we're not really achieving in terms of getting those family dynamics. I only on my second watch did I really understand some of the family dynamics of who this character is to this character, just because sometimes they show up on screen and we're not really getting too much before we get into the Bambi situation. And yes, that's what we're here for, but sometimes I want to know exactly what's going on with these characters so that I'm a little more invested when this threat is on screen with us. And when we talk about the chase scenes and the stalking scenes, there is one that I enjoyed a lot in the woods, dealing with one of the kids in the film. I thought that was rather well done, and the way that kind of wraps up, I think is very fun. I think the audience will love some references.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the entire film. It got an audible like excitement, like laughs and everything from my wife and I who watched this together.
And that's where it's like, I wanted to harness that scene in particular and be like, can we do more of this? Because I know that the film and the filmmakers are capable of doing something like that. It just didn't happen throughout the film like I had wanted it to.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I want to reference my wife here because she has been on board with us from the beginning of this too, like just like yours, and like we've all watched these together, and she never wants to miss a Twisted Childhood Universe movie. And you know, we both walked away from this movie, and I need to stress this because I know I was very critical. I still think that if you're a Twisted Childhood Universe fan, you're definitely go see this, go support this. I think some of you will even really enjoy this. I think it just comes down to, now that we've gotten a few different stories post whatever the first Blood and Honey was, we've seen the various different kind of avenues they can go down. We're starting to understand that very much, at least the first phase here, before they all team up, it is kind of a pick your poison situation, and just say, hey, if you like something that's a little bit more psychological, there you go. If you like something that's a little bit more traditional slasher, there you go. If you want something that's just turn your brain off, a monster somewhat kills some people sometimes, that's Bambi the Reckoning. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Strangely enough, me being the creature feature fan I still have some issues with it. But is it something that I'm never going to go back and watch? No, I'll watch it, especially when I watch the other ones. But I think really where this comes down to me also being a huge thing for just the fans and the fans alone that might have a problem here, the one big one, I don't think this movie feels like it has a whole lot of connective tissue to the last two. This movie feels very isolated, and I think that's a little strange because, like, you know, I'm not saying they have to have full-blown character references. There are slight references here and there, but like, it feels like Blood and Honey 2 and Neverland Nightmares take place in the same universe. This one, I wouldn't put it past people to think, wait, is this a different like place entirely? And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, there is, when we have so many different public domain films and some of them not even connected into this universe, I could easily see someone stumbling upon this one and saying, "Well, this one doesn't feel like some of the other ones that I had watched." Not quality-wise, just because it is such an isolated story. I'm eager to see how Bambi they're going to intertwine when we work into this big team-up film and what they're going to do, just because this one does feel a little bit different than what we've established with Neverland Nightmares in Blood and Honey too. So I'm eager to see what they're going to do here. I think there is some fun to be had in this film. I don't think it 100% did it for me as a creature feature. I mean, I'm just looking for some fun, some really gruesome kills, deliver on that gore, and I just really want that kind of really fast-paced storytelling. So when we look at all the boxes that need to be checked, I don't think they checked everything here, not to the fullest extent that I wanted it to. But I think, you can go back, especially already being engrossed in this universe and loving some of the things that we already have. I can go back and have some fun with this film. It's not offensively bad or anything like that. It just is a little underwhelming in some of the aspects that I wanted it to really excel at. So I think if I'm giving this one a rating, I'm going to go worth a watch on this one as well. I think, there is some strong elements here. There's some weaker elements here, but they did have a handle on the concept and were able to make it to the finish line.
Yeah, I would agree. Worth a watch for me as well. I think that this is one of those that just, if you're a fan, you're going to see it. You're going to, at least check it out and see what they're cooking. Because I do wholeheartedly believe there will be fans of this. And I'm not even saying I'm a huge detractor. I don't want to be dishonest here and say that it's, an improvement or it's continuing the trajectory we've had with the franchise, when in all reality, it's leveling out a little bit. So I don't know. I hope that, I don't think that Dan Allen and team did anything necessarily offensive or bad or anything. I think that there's definitely a solid attempt from the director, from the team here, and I appreciate it. And I just think overall, this is going to be one of those movies that will probably be on the lower side for a lot of people going forward. But I think that if they want to bring him back to, maybe now that we've gotten this part out of the way and we see what happens with Bambi and the Monsterverse, Puniverse, Monsters Assemble, I think that'd be great. I would love to see them kind of maybe take some of those barriers that I felt they put on themselves off a little bit and really let this character just have some fun.
I think, you could, if there was ever a follow-up to this film, I think you could really have some fun. It could be a Blood and Honey 2 scenario where you've established the lore, you know what to expect. You don't have to play by those rules anymore. You could really just focus on having a really fun creature feature. Because I think they did set a solid foundation here. It just was kind of maybe got muddled in some storytelling and not really knowing a clear direction to go into, maybe spending some time on the wrong things as opposed to what really fans are coming to really check out. But, the creators behind this, they had an idea. This is something that I fully support. Go out to the theater and check this one out. I think even though we did see the screener, I want to see this one on the big screen. I want to see how
I do
it
too,
looks.
because especially if it's not the finished version, I definitely want to go.
Yeah, and just be able to see Bambi on screen, to see how that looks, some of the audio in here as well, and just to have a really good time. These films always bring in a fun audience that know how to have a good time. So definitely go out and support this one. It's certainly worth it.
Absolutely. And this is not the only Bambi the Reckoning content you guys will be getting from us. Of course, we will be doing a spoiler review once the film is out. We'll probably get a couple of guests. You'll probably get our boy Killjoy Jake on there, maybe even Evan. We'll see who's interested and where we can get them, as well as, yes, I said we're interviewing the director here tomorrow as of recording this. So, we'll be talking with him, and I'll probably either splice in some of that interview here, or I will put it in on the channel a little bit later. But eventually, during the opening of Bambi, you'll get that. So, yeah, that's gonna wrap us up here. Looking forward to Pinocchio Unstrung. That's gearing up to be something really special. So I'm really excited for it. So yeah, let us know down below what you thought of Bambi the Reckoning. What's your thoughts on the Twisted Childhood universe? And what other characters would you like to see pop up here? I know we've got Pinocchio and the Mad Hatter and Mary Poppins and a few others confirmed. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared. I was super curious to see what another person's vision, what another person's take on this franchise would look like, and kind of what you could bring to it. I gotta ask right off the bat, was there any trepidation, any nervousness about hopping in, or, and I mean that just because I know they wouldn't care if I said it like this, because of the backlash from the first film, but maybe
You
the
know,
other films kind of soften that a little bit?
I mean, I wasn't worried about the backlash at all, to be honest. I was more concerned that we might not be able to hit our own personal expectations with how good the CGI could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried that I was going to be secretly making Birdemic, but with a deer, and end up having this sort of 2D deer wander around. And there was, there was no guarantees that it was going to be great, and that the CGI was going to be up to scratch. Because, on sort of lower budget, especially, the CGI can very often really break a film and be really clunky, and that comes down to the animation, but also the rendering, the lighting. Like, there's so many things that go into it, and if one of those things is off, then it sort of can fall apart. So it doesn't matter what I do, and if anything, then the harder I try at everything else, the film will become ironically hilarious, because everyone's taking it so seriously, and then the creature looks ridiculous. So my biggest concern was just accidentally making something with terrible CGI, but that wasn't didn't turn out to be the case. Great CGI team. Stephanie and Ryan Belgart were amazing. Yeah, I mean, in terms of just the backlash and stuff, yeah, I wasn't too worried, I know, like, because the first Winnie the Pooh got nominated for a bunch of Razzies as well, right? Which I actually thought was cool press. It was great for the film to be considered amongst all these massive, expensive movies. And I mean, in my opinion, the only one it maybe should have been nominated for, considering such the budget disparity, was worst on-screen couple, which was my favorite nomination it got, which I actually think is like the perfect level of tongue-in-cheek. Whereas getting nominated for some of the other ones, I don't know. Yeah, no, I know. Like, yeah, I think Scott thinks it's a bit unfair, which is totally fair enough. But I think it's good promo. It's good press.
Yeah.
And I think it's exciting to be a part of something that there is a fan base for, and to deliver horror movies that hopefully people will enjoy across the world.
I know. Yeah, it's like this has been kind of our favorite part of all of this.
Horror shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.